Oh boy, let's get to it. Most competitive conference in college football. Time to make predictions on the Big 12. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Appreciate you all being here. And what a day here at the Voice of College Football. If you've been locked in, then you've seen Ohio State live, Michigan live, Florida State live, Miami live. And here we are with our Big 12 predictions. Check out the two previous nights. On Monday night, we went live with our Pac-12 predictions and ACC picks. On Tuesday night, we will follow this up with the SEC on Thursday night, the Big Ten on Friday, and then wrap it all up with the big predictions finale. When will that be? I don't know. We've got Notre Dame and Navy, USC, and San Jose State post games coming up. Let's see. That will be on Saturday. We'll fit it in here sometime on Saturday and wrap it all up because we've got some decisions to make. If you watched the ACC show from last night, you know that we had a log jam at second place. So I'm going to have to determine who's going to win those tiebreakers because it was just not A versus B, two teams tied. Did they play head to head? Okay, somebody's got to win that game. They go to the championship game. We had a three-way tie for second place in the ACC. I'm seeing something similar here. It's going to be a chaotic year in college football. How about that? That's what I'm predicting, a chaotic year in college football. Why not? That's more fun that way. And again, we appreciate all of you being here. Reminder that we've got the Amazon link in the description section of all the videos, every single one of them. So you've got no excuse. Any video you're watching here at the Voice of College Football, you go to the description section, you grab the Amazon link, put it somewhere where you won't forget it. There it is. And you help us grow and build the channel without spending a penny. How about that? Also want to remind everyone that we've got our upset alert video. We posted this week our spoiler alert, meaning those teams that could be spoilers, that could spoil national championship seasons. Check out that video. And again, today it was the upset alert video. We put some teams, 10 teams on upset alert for week 1. Premiering Thursday at 6 o'clock Eastern time right here on the main national channel, our conversation with Senator Joe Manchin, who has authored some legislation dealing with NIL, along with former football coach and Representative Senator Tommy Tuberville in Alabama. That was interesting to look over those bullet points and see what they are proposing. So check it out, premiering here at the Voice of College Football, exclusive with Joe Manchin, Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern time. Let me check out your comments before we rev it up and deliver our predictions. And also, I'm going to drop the link in the chat. And also want to remind everyone that directly following our show here on the Big 12, we dive right in with the Pac-12 chat show with Tony, Tim, and company. And that's going to be immediately following the live show here on the Big 12. So it's the Pac-12 chat show with Tony and Tim and company here at the Voice of College Football. So this is your place to be. You have got no other options that are necessary, college football fans. We also have a Big 12 channel. I guess it would make sense on the Big 12 prediction show that I would promote our new Big 12 channel. That link is also in the description section of all the videos. Our new Big 12 channel, get on over there. And even if you could care less about the Big 12, if you're here for our SEC or Big 10 coverage or whomever else, if you believe in what we're doing here at the Voice of College Football, if you enjoy the content that you're here for, understand that it's all tied together. So we need success everywhere. So help us grow the Big 12 channel by subscribing. There again, the link is in the description section. Joey's here. Roger Dodger's here. And yes, yes, yes. We are simulcasting right now on the West Virginia channel as well. We would be simulcasting on the Big 12 channel. However, when you put in for rights with YouTube to be able to go live on that particular channel, it's a 24, at least a 24-hour process to get that done. Unfortunately, I did not think of this in time, and I put that in last night. Zachary. Oh, this is making my night right there. Thank you, Zachary. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for being here. Clint's here as well. Texas or Oklahoma? It's simple. Is it really that simple? I don't know. I don't know. What do you think the chances are that Texas will not reach the Big 12 championship game? I said this last night about the ACC, where most of the offseason, I was more sure that the final conclusion for the ACC championship game was going to be chalk, Clemson, Florida State. However, let's understand it's rarely chalk. Even in college football, after the elites, the very top, like 3 or 4 teams, there's a lot of shakeup. And I had difficulty finding shakeup in the Big 12. I believe that there's a lot of wild cards in play in the Big 12. So let's talk a little Big 12 football and the way the conference is structured. Let's talk that up first. And certainly, we encourage you to join the show. We have left the link in the chat. So my first thought about the Big 12 is that I have felt as though it is the purest championship and the most valid conference championship since the Texas A&M and Missouri departure, because 10 teams, 9 games, meaning everyone plays everyone. It's the most valid championship. That really can't be argued. For as much as we debate and argue here at the Voice of College Football and are open-minded and open to debate with you, that really can't be debated. When everyone plays everyone in a conference, then that's the most valid championship, because you don't have to squabble over, well, they didn't have to play them and they didn't have to play them and they got to play them and them, the 2 worst teams. No, in the Big 12, it was, hey, you don't hide from anyone. You play everyone. The best team over 9 games, the best 2 teams in recent years over 9 games, then advance to the Big 12 championship game. There for a few years, of course, there was no conference championship game from 2011 through 2016. No conference championship game for 6 seasons, and then it came back in 2017 with OU and TCU. The other thing about the Big 12, now that, of course, we've got the 2 departures in 2024, we've got the 4 entries from the American Conference and BYU, is that I got my wish. I got my wish, and I was so happy. I got my wish that Texas and Oklahoma would not leave at the same time that the other 4 would enter the league. I wanted them all to get slammed together, at least for 1 season, for a number of reasons. It's awkward. That's one reason. It's awkward. It makes people uncomfortable, especially administrative types, especially the hierarchy of the league. The league itself, those people affiliated with Oklahoma and Texas that have to have 1 foot in the SEC and 1 foot back in the Big 12. It makes for awkwardness. We're going to see Oklahoma and Texas playing in the Big 12 for the final time. They have been the bedrock of this league, especially Oklahoma. Of course, they precede the Big 8 days. And Texas, of course, joined once the Southwestern Conference dissolved in 1995. So for Texas, it's only been a 28-year run in the Big 12 Conference. For Oklahoma, it's been forever. So really, Oklahoma and Nebraska were the bedrock and the heart of this conference. So I wanted them all to have to play each other at least for this one time. So we get matchups like is I don't know everyone who's playing each other because they're not all playing the new teams, but at least we get to see some of that because you guys know better than I do that it's college football, meaning we don't get to see great matchups. Just look at this shelf back here. Look at the teams that are next to each other. They don't play. They don't play, do they? We could just basically pinpoint the helmets, the teams that are represented here versus the helmet next to them, and who just in this random sample. I didn't plan this. I just thought of this and looked at the return to see the helmets there, and they don't play. Florida, North Carolina, they don't play. North Carolina and Nebraska, they don't play. Washington State, Nebraska. I basically almost have scores memorized for the last 50 years, and I cannot think of one time when any of those teams played. Now, Florida and Nebraska, of course, in the 1995 Fiesta Bowl National Championship game, and that's pretty much it. Florida never plays a Pac-12 team. They did in a bowl game last year for the first time in over 30 years. Think of that. We are in a sport. We love a sport where a team as prominent as Florida went over 30 years. I think it was 34 years. They played Washington in a bowl game in 1987, all the way to 2022, where they didn't play a Pac-12 team for 35 years. That's insane. Look at these teams. Oklahoma, Texas. Well, they never play each other now, or Oklahoma, Texas obviously always play each other, and they're going to the SEC. I was thinking Texas, Clemson. When have they ever played? Answer, they have not. And I'm talking last 50 years. They haven't. Clemson, Oklahoma played in a bowl game in 2014 and in the playoff. But they have to meet in bowl games and in college football playoffs for it to happen. Texas A&M and Stanford, Texas A&M and Washington don't play. Never. Didn't expect to go on that rant. I am just flabbergasted at this sport when it comes to scheduling. Nobody plays anybody. Most of these conferences, well, it's getting a little bit better with the conference schedules, but most of them, at least over the last decades, have had 4 non-conference games, and they don't play anyone. They play one team out of 4, and then the rest of it's Georgia Southern and Appalachian State and North Dakota State. So anyway, we'll get back to the Big 12. Let's roll with our Big 12 predictions, unless somebody's got something in the chat that matters. And again, we remind you that on Thursday, Senator Joe Manchin and our conversation to be released here right at the Voice of College Football. Okay, let's get to it. Can everyone hear? It's pouring. It's like coming down in sheets. All righty, here we go. The bottom of the Big 12 will look like this. So you got this Houston team that is going to be led by quarterback Donovan Smith. He transfers in from Texas Tech. And then you've got basically all the running back and all the wide receiver production at Houston is gone. Maybe I'm being a bit beneficial to Houston, giving them 3 wins in the conference. They lost their top 5 tacklers as well. We've got Cincinnati. I think it's pretty consensus now with Iowa State are the 2 worst teams in the conference. Scott Satterfield, of course, taking over, coming in from Louisville to take over for Luke Fickell. Emory Jones, former Florida and Arizona State quarterback at Cincinnati. Bearcats only win 2 of 9 games in the Big 12. They'll be lucky to do that. West Virginia. I know that the media said that they were the worst team in the league, voted them last. I don't quite see that. I don't expect a banner year for West Virginia. Got to figure out the quarterback situation. Don't know that a starter's been named between Garrett Green and Nico Marchiol. You've got an offensive line that is one of the better ones in the conference. It's not necessarily deep, but it's loaded with 3 potential all-conference and maybe even all-America players blocking for one of the best backs in the conference in C.J. Donaldson. We see Kansas there going to a bowl game last year for the first time in almost 10 seasons, actually going all the way back to, I believe, 2009. And Jalen Daniels is an exceptional, multi-talented quarterback at Kansas. And they also bring back all their meaningful wide receivers at Kansas. And Devin Neal ran for over 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns for the Jayhawks, who played that exciting bowl game against Arkansas 53-52. Oklahoma State, you see them 7-5, 4-5. They've got their big out of conference game. That's against Arizona State. So we're giving the Cowboys a win there. Alan Bowman back at quarterback. Brennan Presley, 67 catches for the Cowboys coming back as well. 129 starts along the offensive line, but a lot of transfer portal hits, including Mason Cobb, one of their best players, going to USC. There's the top of the conference. No huge surprise there, but consider there will be a conference championship game that has to be played between Texas and somebody. We've got to sort out that 3-way tie. That's quite the prediction there, Mark. 3-way tie for second place. Texas. Quinn Ewers needs to improve, needs to gain more consistency, and of course needs to stay healthy, something that plagued him in 2022. C.J. Baxter takes over, and Jaden Blue as well, for the great running back duo of Bijan Robinson and Roschon Johnson. Their wide receiver core is one of the very best in all of college football, and simply, without a doubt, the best in the Big 12. Texas probably has a top 3 unit at every position on both sides of the ball. They should be in the conference championship game. They actually shouldn't even lose 2 games in the conference. All 5 starting offensive linemen coming back, and they all started all 13 games last year. They've got 101 starts coming back along the offensive front. Jalen Ford, 119 tackles on defense, and Ryan Watts, look out for him, an explosive player at the safety position for the Texas Longhorns. How about Texas Tech? I know they're kind of a chic pick. I am picking them, as you can see there in the standings, to win their non-conference big matchup at home against Oregon. That's going to be a great game. That's one of the more anticipated games for me in all of college football in non-conference play. Tyler Shook's 9-0 as a starter at Texas Tech. Their top 3 wide receivers are coming back, including Jerand Bailey, who caught 51 passes last year. Taj Brooks, over 700 yards and 7 touchdowns as well. The Texas Tech defense, though, will really miss Reggie Pearson, one of the top hitting safeties in all the Big 12, who is transferred to Oklahoma. Also for Texas Tech, you've got, again, they lose 5 of their top 6 tacklers. And so that puts that really puts an onus on head coach Joey McGuire, who's got, of course, a defensive background to coach up the defense, and a lot of young guys on that side of the ball. Oklahoma, Dylan Gabriel, good quarterback, not a great quarterback, 25 touchdowns, 6 picks, but take away the big numbers he put up against the middling group of 5 teams, and the numbers aren't quite as impressive. The wide receiver core at Oklahoma's, I don't know when there was a wide receiver core at Oklahoma that threatened a defense as little as this one does. It's just not a very good explosive unit. However, the running back room is loaded. Hearing great things about Marcus Major at Oklahoma, and of course, Javante Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk are 2 electric sophomore backs. Bill Biedenbaugh, one of the best offensive line coaches in the country, has guys coming back with 147 starts. The defense was awful last year, which really surprised me under Brent Venables. I thought, even though he didn't, of course, take over a team with his guys, that he would be able to coach them up. And the best defensive mind in the country, as he's tabbed by many, would be able to coach them up to a degree in which they would be able to compete better than they did. Bothroyd, Spears come in as defensive line supplements through the transfer portal. Woody Washington's a good corner. Peyton Bowen could turn out to be just a complete stud. He's a true freshman, but a 5-star, and he is turning heads in camp. And Danny Stutzman leads the linebacking core in Norman. You've got a Kansas State team that brings back 8 starters on offense, 5 on defense. Will Howard at quarterback truly impressed me as he took over, of course, for Adrian Martinez when he was hurt. Deuce Vaughn, one of the most electric players in college football, gone, along with their top receiver at Kansas State, Malik Knowles. 3 defensive backs gone. Austin Moore, Daniel Green, 2 of the best linebackers in the Big 12 back at Kansas State. TCU, you see 8-4. That would be a 3-game drop from, of course, or check that, a 4-game drop from going 12-0. So let's remember that despite the big loss of Max Duggan, that Chandler Morris, who's the starting quarterback, actually beat Max Duggan out for the job last August. And so it's Chandler Morris's team, but he's not going to have Kendre Miller, their best running back last year. He's not going to have Quentin Johnston. He does not have Tay Barber, NFL caliber receivers back there. They do have most of their big defensive players come back. 5 of 6 top tacklers back at TCU, including Johnny Hodges and Jamoy Hodge. But the Thorpe Award winner, Tremevis Hodges Tomlinson, gone. UCF, one of those interesting new teams. I believe that they're best equipped to compete in their first season in the Big 12 out of those 4 newcomers. John Rice Plumlee back at quarterback. RJ Harvey, 800 yards, 8 touchdowns back. Javon Baker, the Bama transfer at wide receiver, 56 catches for UCF. Experienced offensive line at UCF, 126 starts, 7 starters back on the defensive side, and Jason Johnson, their best tackler, with 126. BYU have a ton of respect for Kalani Sitake and what he's accomplished at BYU. Keaton Slovis is kind of the JT Daniels, the new JT Daniels of the Big 12. Keaton Slovis, of course, started his career replacing JT Daniels at USC, threw 30 touchdowns his first season with the Trojans, and then since then has bounced around to Pitt, and now the starting quarterback at BYU. Defensive line should be a strong point for the Cougars, with 5 of 7 players coming back. Ben Bywater at 98 tackles at linebacker, and he is back with the Cougars. How about Baylor and the roller coaster there? First under Matt Rule, who lifted them from 1 win to a Big 12 championship game 2 years later, and then to Dave Aranda, who only won 2 games in the COVID year, then went to the Big 12 championship game, won the Sugar Bowl, or won the Big 12 and the Sugar Bowl, and bam, down to 6-7. I've got them pretty much staying put at 5-7. Blake Shapen back at quarterback, 18 touchdowns, 10 picks. Richard Reese, their 1,000-yard rusher, back at Baylor. All right, folks. So that's how I sized it up. And what we're going to have to do later this week is, when we tie it all together, is I'm going to have to sort through that 3-way tie for second place. I made this hard on myself in 2 conferences so far by having a 3-way tie for second place in the conference. But that makes it interesting. That makes it a lot of fun. All right. What do we have from all of you? Jesus says 13-0 for TCU, Big 12 champs. Matthew says Baylor should be better. Jeff, big year for the Mountaineers, according to Jeff Morgan. They're going to beat Pitt, UCF, and BYU, and they're going to have to beat some other teams besides those 3 to go 8-4, 6-3 in conference play. Matthew says TCU is going to be much better than people realize. Of course, everybody's expecting a step back. I am as well, but still, 8-4 is a really good football team. That's roughly a top 25 team, and that's where I've got the Horned Frogs. Yeah, Sam, I based that comment about Joey McGuire. He was the Baylor linebackers coach before he got the job with Texas Tech. But you're right; they do believe in fourth down there, and they play fast, and they're just a fun team to watch. And I gotta say, I'm kind of rooting for Texas Tech this year. Texas, Oklahoma, it would be kind of cool to see as a Big 12 championship game, but it would be a bit of a slap in the face to the conference and to everybody else to say, hey, we are the cream of the crop and we own this conference, and then we're taking off. So I really want to see two different teams in there other than Texas and Oklahoma. Texas has a lot of pressure on them. Everyone's expecting them to play for a conference championship. I believe, much like I said, that Florida State and Clemson seems to be the most sure conference championship game. Although, if you watch my ACC predictions from last night, you may think otherwise. Clemson, Florida State, the most secure conference championship game. Texas has the biggest talent gap over anybody in a conference, from most talented to the rest of the conference in college football. Neil, good to see you here. And for Neil, what we are going to do is we are going to elevate the Nevada helmet. Let's give some love to the Wolfpack tonight in honor of Neil. Good to see you, Neil. Dave, very unbiased comment coming out of Dave there. Texas may well beat Alabama with Milroe at quarterback. And I thought about that. I did, as you can see with my predictions, you can see that I did select Alabama to win that game, but I would not be surprised at all. I actually think Alabama was lucky to win that game last year. They were completely outplayed. I think that there was a bad call in the end zone on Bryce Young. I think that was a safety, should have been called a safety. And I believe that if Ryan Watts, who's one of the most explosive defensive players in the league, had not whiffed on a sack off the edge on Bryce Young with about 15 or 20 seconds left in the game, that would have sacked Bryce Young at midfield and would have basically ended the game. That's how close Texas came. They didn't just come within 1 point. They came within Quinn Ewers getting knocked out at the end of the first quarter, Hudson Card having basically to play on one leg because of a bad ankle, and then the Bryce Young play in the end zone that I thought was a horrible call by the officials. And then on top of that, the Watts miss on Young that allowed him to scamper down the sidelines and set up the game-winning field goal. So yeah, Texas could definitely win this game against Alabama and Tuscaloosa. The last time the Tide lost at home, correct me if I'm wrong. That must have been Joe Burrow and LSU in 2019, because Alabama went undefeated in 2020. They lost one game in 21. That was Texas A&M on the road. Then they lost two games last year. They lost at Tennessee and at LSU. So Bama hasn't lost since 2019 at home, and it took a historic team to beat them 46-41. I don't think that they had lost a home game before that, going back to they were undefeated in 18. They only lost one game, the Iron Bowl on the road in 17. They lost no games in the regular season in 16. You have to go back to 2015. And actually, that game was in Oxford. You've got to go back to 2014, besides the Joe Burrow game, to find a game that Alabama's lost at home. crazy. Joey, you got to excuse me. I am just not. I'm just completely missing it on West Virginia. That's all there is to it. I have missed it on the Mountaineers. If only I knew what was coming. Sam says Iowa State take the under, which I don't know what that is now. It's probably changing in Vegas by the day. We didn't even really mention Iowa State. I think I skipped them over. The deal with Iowa State, of course, is a betting scandal that has sent their top leading rusher, Jarrell Brock, off the team, and Hunter Deckers, their starting quarterback, off the team. And I was looking at their quarterback situation today. J.J. Cole is the more athletic player with a higher ceiling, but probably the other quarterback, can't come up with his name right this second, that he is most likely going to be the starter, at least early, but expect Cole to take over. But Matt Campbell's gone from a really good position in college football where he could have pretty much named his job 3 years ago to a difficult position where he's going to have to slug it out this season and just do his best to come up with anything. That team couldn't score last year, and now forget it. Top running back gone, starting quarterback gone. So it's kind of in a sense, a Northwestern situation. Neil's excited to see Kansas come to town. When is the last time anybody would have said that? Can't remember the last time a Big 12 team came to Reno. Oh, so we've got a Kansas game at Nevada. I was not aware of that. That's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Jesus is letting us know that TCU's got a freshman wide receiver by the name of Russell, who's going to be a star. Well, let's find this here. Russell at TCU. I know TCU from watching them late in the season a ton, and through the postseason that I really like their tight end, Jared Wiley. He only caught, I think, 25 passes last year, and he's going to get a lot more targets than that this year. I am not seeing this player, Russell. Cordale Russell. Thank you, Jesus. We'll be looking out for him. How long has Joey McGuire been at Texas Tech? 1 season. With a surprising bowl win against Ole Miss. They blew them out. They went 8-5. S. Reed telling us, who's a Texas Tech fan, I take it from that avatar, says Joey McGuire thinks the Tech defense is going to be better than last year. And we shall see. As I mentioned, they lose 5 of their top 6 tacklers. Matthew says the TCU Tech Big 12 title game would be fun. I agree. Kansas is a wild card. Our Sappleton TV wants us to talk about Virginia football. Wrong show, wrong time, but give me a call and we'll talk some UVA. All right, folks. I think we have nailed it here. So I understand that I've not let everyone know who is going to the Big 12 championship game. So basically, I just finalized these picks right before we came on, and that's what I landed on. I know that looks like chaos, but I love it. Let's do it. And what I'm going to have to do for our final show. So this is prediction week here at the Voice of College Football. Again, Monday, the Pac 12, Tuesday, the ACC, tonight, the Big 12. Then we do the SEC and the Big 10 on Friday. Then we wrap it all up. And I'm going to have to figure out between those three teams what games they are losing to figure out between the three of them who is going to the Big 12 championship game. So that's what I'm going to have to figure out. I'm going to have to look up the conference tiebreaker because most likely they're not all playing each other. You know what? I know they're not playing each other because Oklahoma and Kansas State don't play. So if one of them would have beaten the other two, then they would be going to the championship game, but that can't happen. So it's going to be some convoluted tiebreaker is what we're looking at. And this is the conference to have that kind of result. This is the one because it's the most competitive conference top to bottom. Now, I do think that Cincinnati and Iowa State have separated themselves to the bottom, where when the offseason started, I thought that this was definitely the most competitive conference, 1 through 14. But now I believe Cincinnati and Iowa State are just dragging the league down, and they've separated themselves as the worst, and maybe somebody else will join them, like a Houston, maybe like a Baylor. All right, folks, my work is done. I will leave the link in the chat in case somebody wants to call the show. Otherwise, we will be back on Thursday night with the SEC. And I'm going to have to do some heavy research on this. I'm really going to have to investigate this, but I believe if memory serves me, I believe the SEC has won some national championships recently. I'm going to have to look that up to verify that. But so this may be a key decision in our predictions that we make on Thursday night about the SEC. We have the Pac-12 chat show coming up at 10:30 Eastern. And I appreciate everybody being here. Wanted to run through our Big 12 predictions. Nobody wants to talk to me tonight. That's fine. We talk here 24/7, 365. So we have certainly had enough of live streams today. Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami, and now this Pac-12 chat show is coming up at 10:30 Eastern. Check it out. Keep it locked in right here at the Voice of College Football.